We're episode 18, so we're going to do at least 4 months worth of content, 4.5 months worth of content after this one's released.
It's only been 4 months.
4.5 months.
It feels like we've been doing this all year.
No, we recorded the first couple of ones in
July?
June. And then, so it has been nearly 6 months since we started recording, but we recorded the first 5, and then we took a couple of breaks whilst we got everything sorted. But it has been since around that time, so...
Wow.
Yeah.
Power on through.
Let's do it. Let's do it. I'm looking forward to it.
Alright, so welcome to the Board Game Gateway episode number 18. Luck be a lady tonight.
Ooh.
That's the episode title for anyone wondering. We're going to be speaking tonight about randomness in board games. Is it good? Is it bad? How does it help? And everything in between. So I'm joined by all three of these lovely gentlemen again.
The randomness, just throwing it out there.
Burma.
Just do that.
You know what? That is pretty random.
Just, yeah.
A whizzle wuzzle.
It's a Python reference.
All right. Well, since he's spoken up, I think we're going to introduce and point the target right over here. So I'm joined by this handsome gentleman. You're going to be the handsome gentleman tonight.
Oh, thank you,
Mr. Matt. How are we?
I'm much better now. Thanks. That got me right in the cockles of the old heart there.
He's throwing it around. I wouldn't believe him for a second. He called me Mr. Handsome about half an hour ago, and he's already
loose
changed.
loose with the compliments tonight.
And on my right, piping up, we've got the wonderful Neba.
Oh, he called me wonderful. That's pretty cool.
Wait a minute. What's he going to do next, though?
Oh, wait a minute. I don't... Oh no! Now there's pressure on being. I want to keep it being this nice. I don't want to
Drop a big C-bomb on Ralph.
And on my left here, Ralph is present, I guess.
Oh no!
Well, I guess that's in the theme of the episode. It is quite random. Well, goodbye, everyone. I am now leaving the podcast.
I like Ralph. Why would he do that to him?
I rolled a d20. You came up with a 1. I'm sorry.
That is a Ralph roll. Every time I play D&D, I plan this elaborate move where I jump over the bad guy's back and ready to stab him in the head, and I just trip and stab my own foot.
Yeah, and we should also, our host, he hasn't introduced himself, but for those you don't know his dulcet tones, he is Blake.
Thank you very much. I will be hosting tonight.
Just Blake. I'm literally about to say, just Blake.
You know what? I'm happy with that. I'll take it and run.
Professor Huffnagel's fantabulous contraption. Just start inventing words for him.
Oh, geez, that's quite random.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
And I thought tonight, in theme with the episode being randomness and luck, I think I'm going to tell you all a little joke.
Ooh.
So I've prepared this one. What kind of spells do leprechauns cast?
Tiny ones.
Close.
Lucky Charms?
Yes!
Nice.
I was like, no way is it that simple, right? Oh, absolutely is.
No one laughed at that. That was terrible.
What a me.
So, like I said,
okay,
we're going.
Can I do another terrible, silly?
Please.
I'll go for it.
So, what's Michael Jackson's favorite tea?
Uh-oh.
Oh wait, I just butchered it. It's meant to be. I just butchered it.
Take 2.
Let's edit it out. Whizzle wuzzle.
There's no editing.
What's Michael Jackson's favorite drink? And it's meant to be tea.
What's his favourite tea?
Herbal.
Peppermint? I don't know.
Indian tea?
Oh, no.
Oh, God.
Oh, we've lost it. We're 5 minutes in.
10-year-old.
Before we get into our games of the week, can I bring up something why we have these wonderful clinky drinks in front of us? I just like to... Oh, we're clinking already, but this is the clink. This is
an audio podcast.
This is an audio. Now, this is, for all of you listening, we just...
I forgot about that.
Podcast.
By the way, if you're listening in, these are glasses we're holding in our hands. You got to describe this.
Sorry, some clinky things. That's what they're going to be called from now on. The clinky things.
Reusable clinky.
Reusable. Environmental. Exactly. Oh, a double clink.
You don't throw these out? I've been making an idiot
Anyone
out
will
of
think
myself.
we've been using these all night. We haven't.
No, we really haven't. But who knows what would happen if we did. Oh, anyway, so for those of you, this is the first time that you've tuned in, we have a tradition that when we pass our major milestones, we celebrate with a finger of the gentleman's choice of his spirit of choice.
Be careful where you leave your pauses, man.
With a finger. Yeah, that's it.
That's it.
We celebrate with a finger.
We flip.
Why are we so derailed today? We just cannot get this right.
Milestones do that.
We flip off the audience with a finger. No, we passed a major milestone. We passed 1,000 total podcast listens and plays across all platforms. So I'd like to say congratulations and thank you to the community. Thank you very much. This is for us.
Thank you very much.
Enjoy.
Smooth.
Come on, Ralph. Everyone. Probably watered down. Anyway, we want to just say a big thank you to the big community that we've started to grow. Without you guys out there, this wouldn't be possible, and we wouldn't keep doing what we're doing. But we are really enjoying it, and we hope you are enjoying listening to it as well. We've started doing some more video content, and just did our first live stream the other night. So more and more content's coming out. So and this is really just because we really enjoy it, and we really enjoy your company. So. Look, with that, I'm going to hand it back to the host, but I just wanted to get that out of the way because otherwise that bourbon would be staring me at the face for the rest of this podcast. So, anyway.
Definitely, and it's definitely a milestone that I thought came up way quicker than we were expecting. And yeah, we like we said, we've only got the audience to thank for that. So, thank you very much, guys. But this week, as we said, we're talking about randomness. But first, we're going to go into the games that we've played this week. So, Matt, what have you been doing this week?
Well, the majority of my time has been spent playing with the kids, and I think that as this...
Playing games with the kids.
Yeah. Come on.
We did have a Michael Jackson joke to start us.
Make sure we're on the level.
Yeah.
We're playing board games with my children.
There you
If you're
go.
out there listening, home services people.
This is recorded.
Well, I think as my time with the podcast has come, I've been finding more reasons to play with them than I used to, and I think probably in opening my eyes to just how quickly they've been catching on to things. And maybe I didn't give them enough credit when they're like earlier on before we started doing this stuff. Now I've been doing it. I'm like, I've got to find more games. Like Christmas is coming. I'm like, all right, we're getting board games happening in this family for these kids. Cause
Are the kids listening to the podcast? And they're
Oh,
like,
God,
that sounds really interesting, you know? That slow economic game. What is it, Brass Birmingham? Yeah, that's...
Yeah, Robbie just wants to know what a Euro game is, what a Euro style game is. I'm like, yeah, man,
Yeah.
not going there for you.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't even understand that stuff. I'm not learning all those rules. No, so we did a bit more Carcassonne. We went up on holiday to Queensland over the weekend, and I took the game with me, and we played it a number of times. And Robbie finally got a win out. I think it's our 5th game playing around. He's been trying to win this damn game, but just couldn't do it. And he blitzed it. I think he got like 67 points or something. So
Wow.
Very happy to get around the point board again.
He's his father's son.
Oh, wait. And now I'm worried that he's beaten it, he won't want to play it again. But on the flip side, my dad has also really enjoyed playing it.
Yep.
So I'm thinking we might actually buy the big box with all of the expansions because it's one of those ones where already the family seems to have cottoned on and are requesting to play it. So, you know, that's a rarity in my family.
I think that may be a good idea because my daughter is now also going, Dad, have you gotten that game back from Robbie and Anna yet? And I'm like, no, they've still got it. Oh, because I really want to play it because she just really likes putting the tiles and making and like, honestly, it's surprising how quickly they've all gone, I just want to play with that thing. And I'm
great.
like,
That's really cool.
I'm like, oh, I'll ask them when they get back. I promise. I promise.
And
But
that big box collector's edition does look pretty sweet as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
We haven't even played with the Rivers yet, which is just that single expansion, which is part of Neva's box. But I think that'll be the next thing that we go through. But I might, probably bring it back for Evie to play first.
And have you introduced the farms to them?
Look, I'm still struggling with how that concept, even for me to calculate it. Like I'm looking at it going, man, I know how it works, but sometimes these kids are building these things that would just be 60-point farms. Sometimes you got to break these up with some roads, kids.
Yeah.
But no, I think that'll be that and the river will be the next little part.
Yeah.
I mean, the river doesn't add much to the game except for a starting 12 tiles that you build out from. So,
just a bit of constraint, really, and how the world goes from that point.
Yeah, it's a bit different.
That's right. So, so I suppose the farms will be the next thing. But yeah, that was the only a couple of other little kid games. We also took Llama with us, which is always it's very popular in our family as well at the moment. So, but yeah, other than that, we played Drift, the three of us, last night. Sorry, Blake, you missed out. But that was awesome.
Yeah.
I won't go into depth on Drift, but I'll pass it to the boys because I know they've got a lot to say on it. But I really enjoyed.
Yeah, I think we'll cover it a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On the podcast pretty well.
Yeah, we're gonna
We'll paint a picture.
Yeah, we'll talk about this one right now. So we did our first live stream for the channel last night. So we played a game called Drift, which is made by an Australian board game designer called Josh Allen.
James Allen.
James Allen the second. And he
Sir James Allen.
Well, no, actually,
Dr. Sir.
No, his
James Allen,
his BGG
Esquire.
profile has the 2 after his name, so I'm assuming that's what it is. That's why I call it that. And so, oh god, they're bringing back inside jokes. You have to go and watch our playthrough of Modern Art to get what we're giggling at each other. But Drift is a racing game that attempts to bring in the high octane action of car drifting or controlled sliding of cars, if you will, into a race game. And so it's a very simple game. So we played it on a live stream, as I said, and we played 2 games of it over about 2.5 hours. And
With a teach.
With a teach. But it was honestly one of my surprise hits so far that I've played this year. The game itself is a very simple concept. It's a 2-lap race. Your car, if you've played any racing games like Formula D, has the same sort of gear mechanics where you can go up or down singular gears based on, so if you're in gear 1, you can go up or down 1 gear, so up to 1. Gear 2, you can go up to 2, up to 3, but also back down to 1 if you want. But where this game really starts to shine is in its movement. And what he's developed a system of movement for these cars that is completely, I've never seen this. I've seen this sort of thing used.
It's a tile laying game in a race car format. So like each gear is a type of tile you can place. So like, gear 1 is the smallest tile, but it'll allow you to pivot and turn your car a lot more. Your handling on your car is a lot better than when you're in 5th gear. You get a bigger tile, but you can't really pivot it that much. It's like 5 degrees movement.
I think that's when people hear tile placement, right? We're thinking one after another, right? We're connecting the dots, we're playing dominoes, but there's actually a steering mechanism in the tiles that allows you to feel like you're actually turning the wheel of the car.
Yeah, so what happens is on your turn, unlike, say, like Formula D, where you would roll a dice and move that amount of squares up a track, every turn your car is allowed to have 5 movement tiles, and depending on what gear you're in depends on what you can do. And as Ralph said, each tile has a little circular head at one end followed by a straight section after it. Now, depending on what gear you're in, depends on, as Ralph said, how much rotation the socket has, because you have to put the circle in the rectangle part of the previous gear, but then the angles that come out of it allow you to rotate it, so on and so forth. From about gear 1 to gear 3, you've got really a bit of movement, but from gear 4 and gear 5, your car has barely got any movement. But then here comes the twist of the thing. So you're like, okay, I can move my car up and down, go fast, and I can turn. Well, the game has powers, 5 of them to be specific, I believe, but we won't go into them. But
I think before speaking about the powers,
I was going to say, because you have to earn what's called edge points to use these powers, and to gain edge points, you need to do the main mechanic of this game, which is drifting. And the way that you do that is that there is a specific tile called the handbrake, and you have to play the handbrake tile first, and then you can play a very specific tile called the drift tile. And this is a very special piece where you can actually lay it on the side of the handbrake. And given the way that these things, they call them tactiles, or I can't remember what he called them in the rulebook. I've just forgot. It was.
I think they are tactile drift tiles.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
And what it is that it kind of, if you're looking on the video, it kind of lays them at 45-degree angles from the last one. And so what you're trying to do is, off this drift piece, there's a little black cube on the back of it, a black square, that you're trying to line that into these drift zones around the corner of the track. Now, for every square that you have them in those drift zones, you earn edge points. There's white ones, which earn you 3 per square in, and there's red ones, which earn you 4.
And the red ones are like harder to get right. So like the drifting is cool because like the way you can place the tile is you can kind of like hairspin the back wheels of your cars and slide your car out a little bit further. And it's just really cool way to to take corners, and we're having an absolute blast by doing that.
Absolutely. So not only do you just can lay it on that corner, there's actually a slide mechanic, so you can actually just lay the drift, as you said, Ralph, lay it some, like, kind of, so long as it's touching a specific part, which is, when we discovered that, we realized how the movement actually worked. It was great. And so then you're using the drifting to gain these edge powers. The edge powers have got things such as, you can have a maximum of 18 of them, and you can do things like spend 6 of them to play an extra tile, play 3 of them to do a slingshot maneuver, play 2 of them to give you some extra, bonuses.
Yeah, so the slingshot maneuver is like a slipstream mechanic, when you're behind another car and, you're going at the same speed but less wind resistance, so you can, like, overtake them a bit easier. But the powers, they allow you to break certain rules of the game, where, like Nee said, normally you can place 5 tiles, but if you use 6 edge points, you can place an extra tile for free. But, you could do that 3 times if you have 18 edge points and really get some momentum on
which we did multiple times. And then the final thing about this game, which we haven't discussed, but really this made the game, which is you only have 1 minute to place all of your tiles on the board. You go, I'm going to start a timer. You start a timer, boop, away you go. And then you have a minute to figure out the angles of all your gears, which gears you're putting in, the handbrake turns. And if that timer runs out, that's it. Your turn's done. Whatever tile you're working on, you can figure out the angle, but that's it. There is a power that does allow you to take an extra minute of time as well. So you do have that option if you have the edge points. But that real-time counter, with that, you've heard most of the game, but we're not really doing it justice until you see this game played, which I do recommend you go check out our YouTube channel to check this gameplay out, because it really, look, that's the game overview of how it plays, but let's get into...
The only thing I'd say that the game lacks is that we didn't play it 4 weeks ago before we had our racing podcast.
Oh, absolutely.
I did mention it in that podcast. There's something I was dying to try, but I didn't actually know there was a TTS mod for it. So when I saw that earlier in the week, I'm like, boys, we have to play this.
Yeah, and so we played it, and I mean, that
socket mechanism makes the game like so much more exciting, because all racing games seem to have this is your track, you can move to different tracks kind of situation, right?
Yeah.
But this is free for all. So if you can make the turn, if you can slide down the inside, you might have to take a point or 2 of edge points because you've touched the grass. But if you can sneak your thing in without the car literally falling off the map, that's a perfectly legal move. Right?
Yeah, I did that to you guys on one of the.
You both did it too.
On the second race at the beginning of the turn, I started slow to go and grab some edge points right in the first turn. These two go screaming to the second corner, but because I had grabbed my full allotment of edge points, I basically flung my car into the corner in a way that they're like, there's no way you're going to do that, like come screaming in at 5th gear, and then the handbrake tile technically goes from 5th to 2nd, so it's like I put this handbrake tile down in there, like I fly my car in between this gap, fly it around. It's like, okay, but then because what happens is every round the person in front goes first. So I went from being third, sliding it up the inside on a handbrake, initiating a drift, and then it was my turn again. So then I got to continue the drift. And we talked about this in the live stream, that this is the first game where, like, so the TTS mod, you may think it may sound annoying, but every time you started the timer, there would be like drift noises or engine noises in the background. Whoop, 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 whoop.
But they're just quiet in the background. They're not very loud.
They're not loud. They're loud, but it actually added so much to the ambiance.
Time pressure.
Yeah. But you also felt like when I was putting these things down, every tile that you put down, your mind was imagining the car in the drift or setting up for this drift, and all of a sudden we're just sitting there going, we were like 45 minutes into that first play, and we're all just there going, "Oh my god, can you believe he's just like fanging it in there, right?" Like
we're commentating on everyone else's moves and our own at the same time.
He just slammed on the handbrake. Are you kidding me? It just initiates a drift. And I mean, if you can't tell, I mean, I loved it. I honestly,
we can tell.
No.
I know, guys. I know.
I do just want to say, I mean, I didn't get to play the game, but just that mechanic on the person in front goes first sounds really, really interesting, because the person in front gets to make their move, and then you know what you sort of have to beat. And you know what I mean?
And they can like block your way a little bit too.
Yeah, exactly.
And most racing games have the catch-up mechanic where you go from the back forward kind of thing, right? the front forward is a really cool mechanic. Like there is catch-up mechanics built into the points and stuff like that.
Yeah.
At the back, you get a couple of extra
Yeah,
points.
like each round, like the person coming first gets 1 point for free, and then the person coming last will get like 3 or 4 points depending on the player count.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there is that mechanic built into the background, and that's the
great.
very first game we played. I started in third position, and was in third position for the entirety of the 2 laps until the last move, and I just blitzed it with this massive move to just get over the finish line. And because I was third the entire time, that was the end of that round. So therefore, that's the end of the race.
As Vin Diesel said, you can win by an inch or win by a mile,
Yeah.
but you still win, man. And you did. It was a great final move because Ralph and I were tussling for position to go, all right, because Ralph was like, just remember, it's the person who finishes the furthest across the line when it happens on that round. And Matt's like, yeah, I know. I'm just going to go from third and just get to the finish line where it's like,
I also went from a handbrake turn, which is second gear, as he said, down to first gear, which gave me an extra 5 degrees of movement to really reef it in, and then I launched from there. So
so you don't have to drift, although you do get those points, but you can take the turn slowly and still be in the lead. Like there's that thinking that you have to do when you're playing the game, which is really cool. As opposed to Formula D, just rolling a die and like, do I go up a gear? Do I go down a gear? Like it's just that's a more of a luck thing. But this one, it didn't feel like there was luck involved in winning the race.
Yep.
No, not at all.
In one of our races, the second time we played, I was last. I overtook everyone. And there was still half a lap to go, and I was like, I don't know if I can hold this. And I was just playing so defensively and like just really calculating all my moves, and like I don't get that in a racing game.
It really gives that feel of an actual race where if you're ahead, you've got to be careful of things like slingshotting and your slipstream, and you're playing defensive, trying to block. It gives that sort of same feel of you're not just outright winning and you're just gonna go away with it. Everyone behind you is gaining those extra points, and you've got to try and fight them off. But you're going first, so they know what they have to do to.
But there was a few times as well where this game does reward you for gaining those edge points. So in one of the maps that we were playing, I remember Matt was in front, I was in second, Ralph was in third, and on that race he was talking about. But Matt, we had a circuit where you had to do a full 270-degree turn and come across a cross-section. So the guys behind you would also potentially be coming up as you're trying to go through. So Matt and I came through the drift, and I remember, as you said, Matt went first, but I didn't overtake him. I instead felt, and I ended my car in a drift. We were both ended our turn in the middle of a drift, but we were next to each other, and my mind could not get out of my. I'm like, we are literally we are sliding around the corner together, and that's all my mind could think about. And you're right, like this game literally made me feel like I was in control of that car.
Everything. I
was in control of its movement, how fast it was going. Did I want to initiate the drift? Did I want to slide into the drift zone? Because I could have tried to come up the inside of Matt to get the corner, or do I go for the edge points? There were so many decisions to be made in a 2-lap race that you just like, what am I going to do? Because Ralph, you warned us. You said, because you play tested this in person once before, or you'd seen a play test about it.
I've seen it play tested. I just watched for like 20 minutes while other people were playing it, but it looked really interesting. It reminded me, when I looked at it, it reminded me a bit of Roll Cage, where there's like, some power-ups in the video game, but they're not overbearing. They don't really like the blue turtle shell in Mario Kart like changes the whole race. This didn't have that. This is the only game that looked like you actually had some agency as to how you drive the car. No other racing game has that. Really, like Downforce, there's that strategy. It's a different type of game, like you're watching the race. This one, you're actually playing it. Yeah,
I agree. And so we had heard through the BGG forums and stuff that people were like, well, if you start last, you are at a very disadvantage. However, both races, the person who started last won the race. We didn't actually find it was a disadvantage. There was one turn where I think Ralph or Matt, one of you said, I feel like I'm out of this race. I'm like so far behind you guys, and I think I'm out of this race. And then all of a sudden, within one turn, he's like, oh, actually, I'm not as far back as I actually thought I was. I was literally 5 moves because I'm in 5th gear. Speaking of 5th gear, to go, there is only one gripe that I had with this game, but I understand why it's there, which is that, so one of the powers is called Power Shift, and it has that style of, like, you can go from 5th gear down to, say, 4th gear if you really, from 5th gear down to second gear, and it will cost you 2 edge points per gear that you skipped, right? So it would cost me 4 edge points. You can also do that going up, though, however. So you can come out of a drift in second. And
you can come out of first gear into fifth gear.
You can go from first gear and then just go, I'm going to spend 6 edge points, and now my car is going in fifth gear at the speed of fifth gear, right?
I don't mind that at all.
No, look.
It's a bit of silliness in a game.
That's the only non-realistic part of the game.
But the other reason is I understand why it's there, because it is the catch-up mechanic, which is if you want to spend some of your edge points to go from first gear to get the distance to put yourself in a position to get to it, you can do it, right? And I understand that, but it stood out to me just because in a game where it's like,
but you know what, right?
feels like simulation. And then we just have one thing where it's like, I can just go from first gear, whoop, into fifth gear, whoop, and away we go.
But the thing is that called Nitro Boost, or is Nitro Boost when you play?
That's called Power Shift.
That's called Power Shift. So Nitro Boost is playing the extra tile.
Yeah, absolutely.
But look, if you compare that to Formula D, where you can't do that, where you've got to navigate your gears or you crunch your engine, that's a realistic way of looking at actual engine function. But I didn't feel nearly as much agency in Formula D as I did in this game.
No, look. I say
in terms of the game itself.
Look, it's my only gripe because it just feels out of place. But I also understand that mechanic is needed, because if I was in third place a half and I couldn't have, because you were like, you used it, Matt, majority before us, and you're like, guys, remember you can shift up for edge points if you need to get to that gear. That's how
I won the first game.
And that's how you won the first game. So you went from first to like fourth or fifth in one shot, and then in you go. And that's fine. I mean, absolutely go for it. And so with that little gripe, though, it's still my favorite. I'm making the claim it's now my favorite racing game, 100%.
Same. I think that is hands down my favorite racing game. I can't wait to play more of this game.
There is an upgraded TTS mod coming.
I just want the actual game. It was meant to go to Kickstarter, but obviously COVID made that not happen. It was picked up by Good Games Publishing. I'm not sure if it still is, but I can't wait to see that on shelves.
Look, and we have actually made contact with the designer, and we may actually be having an interview with him, hopefully in the near future. We're going to be trying to contact him, and he has responded, so we're going to try and organise a time, and hopefully we'll actually get
He's designing an awesome game.
He's actually driving down from Newcastle in fifth gear straight out of his garage. It might take him a little bit, like he's got to warm up to the F3 there.
Straight from first gear.
He might fag it into the driveway and destroy these grass.
He's drifting down the highway.
But anyway, that was Drift. If you get a chance, go and play this game. Watch our live stream to get an idea of what the game is, but go and play this game on TTS. Excellent it really deserves so much more attention than it currently has. I honestly think it's one of those games that will just make you feel like you're in a drift car.
And I'll tell you what, I think we all can't wait to play more of this. So hit us up on Discord, jump in a game with us. It'll be amazing.
Absolutely, we'll play some more of that.
I mean, I definitely can't wait to get a game of it in it. On first look, it looks unassuming, but the more I watched it, the more I heard you guys talking about it, and talking more about it tonight. I already feel like I'm already there playing. It just seems like a fantastic game. I can't wait to give it a go.
You're right though. The simplicity of the actual game really sells it as well.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure.
I would like to play it at 4 just to see how crowded the track would actually feel, because it felt crowded, a bit crowded times at 3. That
slipstream mechanic will happen so
exactly right. So that's why I'm like, I'd be keen to try this out at 4. But yeah, so I think we'll have to.
Apparently plays really well with that as well. But I think the simplicity of the tactileness, it's just like playing with Lego as a kid. Just lining up pieces and playing with blocks and stuff. So I think that's why I really like it.
Can I also just say, though, this is one of those games where I had just as much fun watching you two put your turns in as I did putting mine in.
In the downtime, I was still having as much fun.
I'm sitting there because it's on a 1 minute timer, right? So with a 3-player game, you only get generally 1 minute and then 2 minutes of downtime, right? So you're more downtime than you are playing this game. And I had so much fun watching them go, what are you doing? But then there were times, because we were battling the TTS mod as well, where you're like, 30 seconds, Ralph. 25 seconds. Also, and you're like, oh!
In my mind, I was watching Matt go from like second to fifth gear so many times, and I'm like, he's wasting his edge points. What's he doing? But then he won the race with it. And I was like, okay, I guess he knows what he's doing.
I just got lucky.
Just for the short amount of time that I managed to tune into the stream, I think it was Ralph taking his turn, and I saw him try and drift around this corner, come out of it, hit fifth gear, and he was going over the grass, and him trying to make this
It's a
Ooh,
matter of inches.
Do I take the point hit and go over this grass in fifth gear, or do I cut it down a little bit and go around?
Yeah, you're trying to work it out, which is a lot of fun of the puzzle. Yeah.
Highly recommend. This literally has just got the I honestly think this is up there with one of my favorite games. If I redid my top 10, I don't know if this would make the top 10, but it certainly would be.
You need to play it in person. I want to see the actual tactility of it. I think half the reason that the player enjoyment from the other people, there was an element of you guys and myself fighting against the machine, your computer, right? Your own mouse at times going, oh crap, I should have done that.
I also just want to say, sorry, man. Like, it's very rare I play a game once and be like, that was amazing. It's even more rare that happens on tabletop simulator. Like, normally you play a game on TTS, you're like, yeah, that was good, but, I'd rather play it on the table. Yeah. But, like, same applies, but I'm like, that was still bloody amazing.
I'd love to know with the actual pieces, because I think that having it all in front of us and no one being able to go, like, preempt anyone's moves, right? You couldn't grab the pieces you were going to use and say, well, this will be my move, right? You had to do it live. That's how I'd want to play the game as well, right? With this frantic reach across the table and grab the bits that you need, but you can only grab one piece at a time kind of thing. That really made the energy.
All three of us, every time before we click the timer, would go...
Yeah,
go. Right, I was like, you're prepping yourself for this 1 minute of madness because you're like, go! Oh my god! But it was honestly, so good.
I've grabbed the left hander. I should have grabbed the right hander. Motherfucker!
It was so good. Yeah.
All right. Well, I think we'll move on. Did you want to talk about?
I just want to say one more thing about that.
Yeah.
Sorry, one last thing.
This is how good it was.
After you actually have it in real life, the drift game, and you've played it a bunch, and you all love the game. What you could do, you could easily house rule different edge point abilities.
Oh, absolutely.
You could make it spend 15 edge points and someone has to do it with one hand or on one leg. Or like make them blindfolded for 10 seconds of their turn. Or like just something stupid.
There's a party game element that you
could house rule different abilities.
And I'd imagine that this would be a game if once again, well done to James for the design.
Yeah, it's an amazing game. I'm not butchering it. I love it.
No. But I can imagine if it picks up financially for it, that there's room for so many expansions as well, and different little pieces, like in Flamme Rouge, where you got the narrowing of certain streets and stuff, just to make it a little bit.
Oh, the tracks are modular. You can make your own.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Modular pieces where those will be the expansions and different rules and stuff. Like you'd still, so long as that core gameplay mechanic didn't change, it's still going to be fun no matter what the map does.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think we're going to go on to our Gateway Game of the Week for this week, which we played a game called Modern Art. Ralph brought this one around for us to play. Ralph, did you want to run us through how this one's played?
Yeah, sure thing. So the game's called Modern Art, and we basically it's up to place between 3 and 5 players, and each player owns a museum or represents a museum of some kind. So I think
I was Madrid.
You're Madrid.
An art museum. I was Paris.
I was New York Art Gallery.
And I was the museum that failed at the end anyway. But essentially, everyone starts with $100 and you buy paintings. The winner is the player at the end of the game with the most money. So you buy paintings, and at the end of each round, you sell paintings for a value, and you don't know what the value is at the start of the round. So on your turn, you will play a painting from your hand. They're one of 5 colors, and the painting will actually tell you what type of auction it is. So there are open auctions, which are essentially just like the standard auction you're used to when you see a house auction or something like that, or someone's bidding for a Pokemon card. They might just yell out what they're looking for, and you can say sold for that price. And it comes with a little gavel, so you do get to bang the gavel.
It was the best part of the whole game, to be honest.
Yeah, that was pretty good. The other type of auction is a one-offer auction. So every player we go in a circle, and you just say, I want to buy that painting for $20. And if I like it, I just say sold to you for $20. If not, the next player gets to outbid or pass. One is a hidden auction, where everyone grabs their little money into their hand, and whatever they want to pay for the painting, they just reveal at the same time. And another one is a fixed price, where the seller sets the price and it goes around in the circle, and if you want to pay that amount, you will buy the painting. And there's one other type, which is a double auction, and that's where sometimes you can play 2 cards and the type of auction is what's stated on the other card that you're putting up for auction. So it can be an open auction, a one-offer auction, a hidden auction, or a fixed price. But essentially, you're going to be buying paintings and selling paintings. At the end of the round, whichever color is the majority, that painting is going to be worth $30 each. And then the second majority will be worth 20, and the third is worth 10. That is basically the game. It does open up a bit more, but I might pass it on to the guys to explain the rest.
Yeah, so as Ralph said, this is only an auction game. So we've talked about another auction game as our gateway game of the week for sale. This would be, I would say, the next step up from that. However, I still think this counts as a game that is perfect for the gateway crowd, because it's just literally bidding on art. The main thing that Ralph said, though, which is that the paintings are only worth money if they are in the majority of that term. So if you had green, orange, and red were the three that paid, but I only had yellow in front of me, then my yellows are worth bupkis, even though I had to pay money for them. Yep. But where this game really shines, which is that in the later rounds, every time that a painting color group, so it plays over 4 rounds, every round, the majorities now, the 3 majorities of round 2, they'll add on. Except what happens from this point onwards is if red got a majority in the first round, so it was worth 20 in the first round, but then it got a 30 in the second round, the total value of those paintings is now $50 per painting that you sell. And so what this game turns from a simple, we're bidding on auctions and, oh my God, isn't this funny? Oh, my things are worth $30. And then you realize very quickly, in round 2, if I can make my reds worth $30 again, they're worth $60 per painting that I have per red painting I have in front of me. And remember, this plays over 4 rounds. So that means by the end of the round, in our game, the yellow paintings at the end of the 4th round were worth $90 per painting. And that's a lot of money when the opening round, the bids were like, $7, $12. And then in the round 4, our bids were like, $78, $85, and I think the highest one we got to was $101 for one of the paintings. For a single painting was worth $101, considering where we were at the start of the game. And that's it. I mean, it's designed by Rainer Knizia, so again,
a real doctor,
the doctor, Dr. Rainer Knizia. And this game, however, was designed in 1994, so it is now 28 years old.
Well done.
Yeah, I had to remember that for a second. I was like,
but you're wrong.
29. 30.
No.
20, I'm right. 28.
So.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, I'm right. 28. Yeah. Jeez, I math good.
You math good.
Me speak not so good.
Matt strike 2.
I won't be here next week. That's fine.
But I really enjoy this as an auction game. I think it's a good step up from for sale. But Matt, what do you think of it?
Yeah, I loved it too. Cutting onto what you were just saying there, the game does take a sharp turn when you realise, okay, I'm not just playing for the fun of having a bit of an auction here. I cottoned on too late that the cards in my hand, not in my museum, but in my hand, not only were worth nothing, but I might not actually own them, right? So if I've got 3 green cards in my hand, that doesn't mean I should be trying to go for green. It just means I've got a power play to play for the greens if I wanted to, right? If they end up lots of them on the table, I could add to the value overall. Yep. And I didn't really get that. I started playing with, I've got 3 greens in my hand, I'll try and get greens on the table, but then they end up in front of someone else and they're worth something for someone else's hand, not mine.
But that's one of the most important things that we didn't actually mention, which is that this is an auction game, but you pay the person who put the card down in front of them.
Yeah.
So if I say there's a green card here, you want to drive the price of it up to get yourself money. However, you also have to play that balance act of, I want money, but I don't want Blake to be getting all of the greens when I know they're going to be worth 60 a pop, and he's buying it at 30 a pop because he's just made double his money profit out of that. Congratulations. So you're playing this delicate balancing act between setting the prices and trying to drive up the prices to a point where people will pay you. However, the flip side of this is that if nobody wants to buy the painting that you put up at a set price or an auction, you can purchase it. You can purchase your own artwork. Now, if you do that, you lose the money that you pay the money to the bank. However, no one else at the table...
Taking it out of circulation, really.
Yeah, but no one else at the table gets access to it. So you don't want to overpay. But you're also now, the other we kind of mentioned, which is the auctions, especially in the later rounds, you start bidding based on what you hope is going to be the majority, because you're like, well, this is worth 60 now, but if it gets the majority, it's going to be worth 90. So therefore, realistically, I should only be bidding a maximum of 90. But then your feelings get in the way, and you're like, well, F that guy. I don't want to get. I don't want to let him.
For chaos mostly in that first round. I don't know if I would rate this as a solid gateway game though. Like I like the game, but I'm saying I don't know if I would categorize it in the gateway community of games.
Not even for an auction mechanic?
Because of that mechanic, the actual difference in types of mechanics, and then the value, like there's a lot going on.
There's a lot of strategy.
There's a lot of that's right, and it's not just we start the game and we end the game and it's building and building, right? It takes a curve, right? By the time we were in that fourth round, we were playing for keeps, and it was very strategic what we did put out or didn't put out, and that coupled with the other mechanics, I think might be just a step further away from a gateway game. That's all.
Do you feel like for me, even I think that you're right. This game does have a deeper level, especially as you get to those later stages.
Yeah.
However, I think the game eases you in well. I feel like for me, just on the base level of this game and the base mechanic of this game, I found this auction mechanic easier to understand and start playing than a game like For Sale. Even though I feel like For Sale is probably the easier game to play overall, I feel like this game eased me in a bit better, but then had that deeper level to it at the end. Because For Sale, you sort of have this mechanic where houses, you're buying the houses first and then you're associating prices to them, and I feel like it almost flips in a way that's not 100% intuitive for me, at least.
I felt like you're playing the game twice.
Exactly, that's the exact feeling that I get with that game, whereas I feel like this game stays the same throughout the whole thing. It's a very easy, we're only auctioning in one way, and then it just adds a layer of depth, of like a strategy.
I don't think
depth
it's a difficult game.
No.
I just don't know if I'd classify it in that. This will get you to that next level of game.
I would say this is a lightweight to medium game, certainly.
It's one of the more heavier gateway games that we've done on the podcast.
Definitely,
For sure.
yeah.
I will say, though, this was a game that we literally picked up and started playing in less than 5 minutes. Like, Ralph was like, you have paintings, these are the four sorts of auctions that we're going to do, and then you start with money, and then you need to end with the most money. And then once you explained, well, whoever has the most amount of artwork, here's how this works. 5 minutes in, and we were playing. So there is something to be said about that. You are right. Maybe the first 2 levels of the game are kind of gateway-ish, but then levels 3 and 4 really then make you start going, you really need to think about your decision here, because if you don't, you're going to be either A, overpaying for a painting, or B, giving someone, like, there was one move in the game where Matt, he had a single price, he had a single price for a double painting, and we were all expecting it to be worth 85, because we were looking at that going, this will put it in the majority. We all did the calculations in our head going, anything like, even like $70 is an immediate buy. And Matt goes, $40, and I went, thank you very much, and I got $180 out of it. So I made $140 off of one transaction.
I was playing for chaos.
But yes, but that's the thing, which is that you could have been strategic and gone, you know what, this is worth $85, and you probably would have gotten it from one of us at that point.
I do think, as far as last week's podcast, I get into the theme quite a lot. Like
you do.
Whilst I was chastised for not gaveling enough, I certainly got into the actual auctioneer side of things.
You
quite
did,
well.
very much. And but there is a lot to be said here about the fact that the artwork, as well as actually, this is the reprinted edition, I believe.
It is.
And so they did actually have like actual artists doing the art for it, and these are actually pieces of these are actually pieces of art that are actually out in the world
By real artists.
And
we insulted all of them during the game.
No, we were impressed by their artworks, to be honest. Like, some of them are really cool.
Yeah.
I think part of this game, I just taught you guys how to play. I didn't pitch the game to you as we played it, because we're all gamers. I think if I was to show this to a new group, like as a gateway game, I will give them a bit of the flavor, because everyone already knows also how an auction works. There are different types of auctions, but at a core thing in life. Everyone knows what an auction is. Whether you're trying to buy a car, things like that. But I should have said, at its core, this is a strategy game. Like it really, you got to play the market. Like, you know, if you just buy 2 green paintings, you might want to flood the market quickly so that way you can get those points and not give other players the points and different things like that. So a lot of that, you might have to play it, learn it yourself a little bit on your first play. But as soon as your second game starts of this, you know what you're in for. And you just know how to play it.
I will say that the artwork and the style of this game will hook some people that maybe would not have been hooked by other styles of game just for the artwork in and of itself. And so, look, we played it. Took us about an hour and 20 to get through the game. Granted, we had a fit of giggles and a whole bunch of other stuff going through the game, but look, I agree. I don't want to say this is necessarily a gateway game. However, I do think it does deserve to be classified in our gateway game of the week because, as you said, Blake, of how it ramps. Because it starts so simple as an auction game and then just goes, okay, you like auctions? Here's the strategy behind it right now and enjoy.
We played a game a few weeks back, by Reiner as well, who made this a couple years later. He made a game called High Society.
Yes.
Which I would say is a gateway auctioning game. There's a bit to it to sort of understand the value still. Like in any auction, you need to know what you're bidding for and know what the value of something is. But that's just a very quick 10-minute card game. And then the game's over within 10 minutes. Yeah. And this is, to me, a step up from that game.
Yeah.
I would still go to something like For Sale for an auctioning game because you don't really understand the value of things. It's just, I'm going to play this card, mine's higher than yours. Like, it's all hidden.
Yeah.
This is like, I'm actively outbidding you. I'm actively setting the price for something.
Yeah.
And I have to kind of work out what the value is. This is the strategy. For Sale is just playing cards and everyone's happy.
I feel like if I had to criticize anything of this game, and don't get me wrong, I really did enjoy the game and I would definitely play it again. And maybe it's just the way it ended up playing the first time, and the more that the people, you know, everyone starts to understand values and the way, you know, the strategy of the game would change this. But I felt like I didn't have to interact with the game very much to come out on top. I think 2 of the rounds I didn't buy any artwork. 2 out of the 4 rounds I didn't buy any artwork at all. I was just selling them. And the other 2, I only think I bought 1 or 2 pieces each. And just because I wasn't bidding on pieces that I thought were starting to get overpriced, I ended up coming out on top.
Yeah.
And I feel like the game didn't encourage interaction through that.
But that's because the way we played it a very
I think
market.
that's which was why I would love to play it again and start to get those.
I've played this like probably 10, 15 times or so.
Also, those first 2 rounds were really quick. Like, we tried to close them off really quick. We did.
Yeah.
And the other ones opened up.
So there wasn't enough chance to get a table market really happening, I suppose.
Yeah. Like, for example, I bought orange paintings that were worth quite a bit at the time, and then by the end of the round, they're worth nothing. Yeah. So, like, that was huge. I've lost my train of thought. Apologies.
My bad, sorry.
No, you're all right. But yeah, I've played this game 10 or 15 times, and this is one of the games for me where I'm not playing the game, I'm playing the players. You're literally, it's kind of like, it's not poker, it's not gambling or anything, but you are looking around the table. And even when you submit a painting up for auction and someone buys it, you're taking that money. So when you see 2-3 players really going strong for it, you know, that's quite good for you. And you're just there enjoying everyone saying numbers out loud. So, you got to play the players. So, and you did that so well.
Yeah. You did do that well, Ralph.
No, I'm talking Blake. I didn't do that at all.
Blake, sorry.
No.
They won
because one shot in and I can't remember anyone's names.
Thanks, Stephen.
Shut up, Doctor.
Oh, no.
That's Mr. to you.
Mr. Doctor to you.
Mr. Doctor. Anyway, but that was our gateway game of the week, Eric. Modern Art by the Doctor. I will say though, this is a highly ranked game. It is 213 on Board Game Geek. So
I thought it was higher, to be honest.
No, but that's still very high.
That's still very high.
How many
8 million games on there.
1 million games.
Yeah,
I really enjoyed it. I think I would give it my thumbs up of approval for its gateway game of the week.
Yeah, absolutely. It does have its kinks to know about, but it is very as you said, very easy to get into, very easy to get starting and playing. It may bounce off with some players when it slows down those later rounds, but overall, I enjoy the game.
And it just looks fantastic.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
All right, so we might move on at this point to our theme of the week, which is randomness. Thank you.
Matt froze. Matt froze under pressure there.
Pissed off me in the face. One shot of wild turkey.
I was waiting for someone.
What did you just do? Did you actually say wuzzle wuzzle or you just go...
Yeah, I was doing random sounds, yeah.
Thought you had
If
a heart
anything, I had a rough dinner, so that was just...
CNN.
I feel like we should be playing the Rick and Morty, the interdimensional cable.
International cable, yeah, absolutely. But yeah, well, look, I'm just gonna bring us into this because Blake, you're the one who wanted to discuss luck in games and randomness in games. You're the one who said this is the topic that you wanted to have a chat about. So, why don't you tell us about what why you wanted to have a chat about this, and we'll start our discussion as we. Yeah.
I just find randomness in board games. That it's just such an interesting concept. It's so opposing in its implementation. It can be so negative in its approach if done incorrectly, but it can be so positive when it's done right. But it's hard to pinpoint exactly what works and what doesn't. What works in one game will not necessarily work for another game, and I just found that
how much is too much.
Exactly.
Yeah.
How much? It can completely ruin an experience, or it can completely make one.
Yeah, look, randomness can be used in multiple ways. It's like, casinos are literally based around the idea of randomness and the luck and...
They know what they're doing.
Yeah, exactly right. But casinos are based around the idea of you beating the odds and stuff. And so board games take this idea of randomness and luck, and basically they are mechanics that can be used for a whole different number of things, such as, for example, just decision making can be used for, bonuses, for catch-up mechanics, and they can be used in really a number of different ways. You've got things like card draw, here's a deck of cards. Maybe a strategy is you want to draw as many of them to try and increase your odds of getting the card that you're looking for that'll help your strategy. They implement dice. That's one of the really obvious ones. You think about a game like Monopoly. The game uses the randomness and basically says, okay, roll, move this amount, and then
I think that might be part of where you could start to decipher how much randomness or what type of randomness is good for a game. In that, does that random aspect of the game, or multiple aspects, lead to you then making other decisions, or does the randomness control what you have to do? And when it controls what you have to do, like in dice rolls, and then now I move my piece and then I'm stuck here, for me, that ruins the enjoyment of the game. Because once again, coupling back to what we were talking about last week, the agency is suddenly gone from the player. It's now the dice are in charge. Whereas with card draws, there's an element of randomness to what you might get, but you then have the agency to then decide your next move or your next action based on what you could do with that card.
Let's break your brain and just cycle back to 10 minutes ago. Yeah. Dice Forge. You're rolling dice, but you're customizing it.
Well, okay, yeah. Then there you go. But that's
it comes down to the mechanic of the game.
That's right. And the different games, I'm not saying that randomness is good or bad, but in some games it's not implemented well, and so therefore it can ruin the game.
I will say with Dice Forge, I have had games where I have put on the multipliers, and that multiplier hits multiple times, and you're like, everything is coming up Neva. This is the best. My strategy is working. I did it. And I've had games where I put the 2 multipliers on the board, and there's only 2 of them. So I got 2 of them on my dice, and they didn't hit once, right? Yeah. And that's just the thing that you have to understand. And that felt crap. It felt really bad that you're like, well, come on. I've given myself a 1 out of 3 chance that this is going to come up, and it didn't come up. And you're right, which is that, well, I guess the question is, this is why there's a whole style of games that we classify as Euro games, or Euro games generally tend to be the idea of, we're going to take luck out of the game, and it's going to be about you as a player are going to control the experience of what's about to happen here. You're going to create an engine of some description, or you're going to make a whole bunch of decisions, and then the person who comes out the winner is generally the person who made the best decisions throughout the game and consistently made the best decisions. However, the downside to that, which is why luck can sometimes be a good thing, which is in games where that happens, if you fall behind early, you're out of the game. You're done. You can be done half an hour into a 2.5 hour game, and there is no catch-up mechanic from this point onwards. I mean...
That's the thing. It comes down to the game design.
Yeah.
Because there's some games that, luck plays a big part, but then there's that catch-up mechanic, right? For example, I have a terrible relationship with Lady Luck when it comes to board games. I can't tell you the last time I won a game of Quacks of Quedlinburg. I'm terrible. And they give you that rat's tail as a catch-up mechanic. I've never seen anyone catch up with that rat's tail.
No.
If you're making using your agency, if you're making bad decisions building that bag, there's no coming back for you.
Yeah. I will say as well, there is a difference when we say Lady Luck and randomness. There is actually a difference between luck and randomness, because randomness can be implemented in ways throughout a game, such as, what do we define as random? Well, we could say, for example, in a game of brass, the 6 starting locations, we randomize what goods we're going to have there. That's got nothing to do with your luck as a player. You
So
go,
you're saying like an event card or something.
yeah.
Like
So,
that.
like for example,
randomness can be good and bad.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Event cards could be positive for the gameplay or negative.
it has to go both ways. That's
that's what I mean, which is that I'm not necessarily saying that it's good or bad, but what I'm saying is that there is a difference between the idea of implementing luck into your game and implementing randomness. The randomness could be, for example, let's say, for example, in the game of Twilight Imperium, as we've played, the randomness comes from, we don't know what laws or directives are going to come out when we play this game. Therefore, we need to make the best of those decisions when they come out. That's a random thing that we now have to determine.
I think especially in TI, I'll tell you this one example that happened to me. So I was a really strong faction. I got the main big planet in the center of the map, and I was in a position to win the game. And then the wrong agenda came out for me at the wrong time, and all the other players voted for that and blew up everything I had. My whole game, my whole investment, everything was gone. And I was the only player at the table going, oh, that's terrible. But everyone else is cheering, right? I'm happy with that because it opens up the game. That randomness made it a game instead of Ralph won it next round.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely right. And so to continue with Twilight, the idea of, so that's a random event.
That was great.
But granted, that random event still had to be voted on and the players had to get through it.
Yeah.
But the luck side of that comes from, and granted, luck can involve a bit of randomness, but in the space battles, you are trying to roll dice to get a certain number to get the hits to destroy their army. So yes, that's random because I don't. That's it. Yes, yes, it's a random between a certain number range, but you are hoping that you're trying to upgrade your ships in a way to increase your odds of hitting. So it's like you are hoping that, my cruisers at the moment only hit on a 7, 8, or a 9, so like I've got a 30% chance of them actually hitting.
Defining your own luck, which is putting your faces on your dice.
But in saying that, in terms of luck, I've played a lot of Risk in my life, and how cool is it when you see that one person who cashed in all their stars, they got 30 troops down, and it's down to 1 troop going up against 30. And it takes them like 10 rolls to kill that 1 troop. This little fella's fighting back. It is so fun to watch.
Defense breaks ties.
I think that's a good point though, because when we're talking about, like, so far we've all talked about how the luck and the randomness affects the person actually taking their turn.
Action,
But it also affects the other players in the way that if I'm getting extremely lucky and maybe everyone else considers, that, you're not winning because of anything that you're doing, you're just getting... I could be in your position if I was rolling the same dice as you are or drawing the same cards the same way that you are. So it can create that sort of animosity, you're only winning because of the luck, which is what I think comes down to this. How one major aspect, at least for me, is how randomness works in a game. It comes back to last week again, but a game's theme. I think, a game like Long Shot, the dice game, or, Lords of Vegas, or something that's themed in a way where luck is inherently in it. I think that really, you're already in the mindset, I'm going to live or die by this dice.
Yeah,
your game's not inherently ruined.
Lords of Vegas is a great example of that, because Lords of Vegas has got that mechanic where you could have 4 dice in a hotel and I've got 1 dice. And the rule is it's not it's the accumulative. No, it's whoever has the highest dice. It's not the accumulative dice. So all I need is one of my dice. My dice can roll a 6, and your 4 dice roll 5 or lower. Congratulations, I just took over your casino. Yep. And that feels, as the player who did it, fantastic. As the other player, you're like, what the is going on? And I will say, another game that we have played a lot of, this game is, I think, one of the biggest things, is Space Base. Space Base is a game where you are literally just defining your luck. You are saying, I'm going to play a lot of low numbers, or you're going to play a lot of high numbers. And now we've played a lot of these games on Board Game Arena where we play them back to back to back to back. We played like 5 games in one sitting once. And we were like, one game, like we were playing like the 7-6-8 strategy, right? And it hit big time. Like we're rolling 7s, 8s, up we went and we win the game. It was like me or someone else. I think me and Blake were running. And my brother Nick was sitting there going, this is freaking bullshit. You know what? Next time I'm going to do exactly that. And he changed his strategy to be the 7, 8, and 6, and it didn't hit at all, right? And that's the game, which is that you theoretically, those numbers should come up the most amount of times in statistically when you're rolling it. But and he felt like crap. Granted, the next game after that, he won, and he was like, yes, finally, right? And the sense of jubilation and joy that he had once he finally got the win was much higher. But he did feel like he was fighting the dice for a few games, not fighting us.
So
and I do just want to come back to the point that you made, Matt, about how I hadn't thought about it, but that concept of you like when you roll a dice and that dictates what you can do, not what you must do. And I think that's why I enjoyed a game like Long Shot so much, because you roll the dice to see what horses are going to move, but your actual actions have nothing to do with that. You just wanted the numbers. Okay, well, I can do these possible 5 or 6 actions with those dice, and then it sort of comes down to your decision making.
I think that shows the difference between luck and randomness, because randomness by itself, as you said, is a pretty hard concept to even find in a lot of board games. It's like most of it is luck, right? Is luck of the draw, luck of the dice, whatever it is. There's very few games where it is inconsequential what's rolled because you're doing stuff like that's just another component. All right, cool, that's where we're at. Let's make the decisions from here. That's then randomness. It's not luck, right? Unless you're really banking on one horse coming over and you've gone down the line there. But there are very few games where it is pure random chance and that dictates the game. There are a couple. I know Ralph had one. I'm sure he'll bring up.
No, you're welcome to. Okay.
No, you showed it off to
yeah, I was just saying, like Galaxy Trucker.
Yeah.
Right, like that is random in terms of the cards that come out in what order. So like you could, find a spaceship and get all your cargo spots are filled up, and then the very next card is all the asteroid field and your ship blows up based on the luck of the roll. But the placement of the cards, although it was unlucky for you, but it's random. So it's kind of like what I kind of want to understand is what are we trying to accomplish by this discussion here? Because yes, every game has luck. Like not every game, but a lot of games have luck. Yes, a lot of games have randomness. But what are we trying to address in this episode this week?
I guess it's just to kind of let people know that this is kind of a part of the board gaming scene, that this is something that you will have to keep an eye out for specific kind of games. And I do think this is a reason why some people do bounce off quite a few games. Randomness, if not handled correctly, such as in moving with Monopoly, can take away your agency as a player.
But that's why a lot of gamers don't necessarily play Monopoly.
Absolutely, and that's why
that component.
And that's why me too.
And
that's why
agency.
But that's also where I feel like a lot of games as well. A lot of randomness. A lot of the time tends to either be an random events that's at a essentially a hook or a crossroads that you have to deal with as a player.
Yeah.
Or they can be used in setup so that your variability can be actually changed. Now, when you say what are we trying to accomplish here, I don't know if we're necessarily trying to accomplish. I feel like I guess we could try and recommend some games I think handle these variations very well.
I love randomness in games, but I think we're a fan of Euro games. We love the forecasting, knowing something's going to happen. So like knowing that like in Blood Rage, a section of the map is going to blow up at the end of the round, sort of thing. So you can sort of pre-plan for that. In games like Scythe, there's like, you know, a certain player is going to go to this one spot to get their ability, but you can sort of plan for that. So there is that forecasting in some games. There's games like Too Many Bones where you're going up against a different bad guy, but you know what he's going to do, but it is luck of the roll if you kill him or not. So like there's appealing luck and randomness factors in pretty much every game.
Yeah, there is.
Oh, for sure.
Absolutely. And I think games, and that's kind of the variability of luck and randomness, though, is what makes games a lot of things. Otherwise, otherwise we'd be doing a jigsaw puzzle.
Yeah,
we'd
I
just
think
be
the
putting
crux
it
of
down.
it is how much agency does that leave the player, though?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? How much is the game defined by chance?
Yeah.
And how much is, or conversely, does chance then just dictate what I can now do, and I still have to strategize around what's happened?
I love games where an event or something changes the decisions that you make when you play the game. So that way it keeps the game fresh. So I really enjoy randomness in board gaming.
And like, it can backfire even on good games. And the one, what was the political game that we played on?
Corridors of Power.
Corridors of Power,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, that backfired.
The
That
randomness.
backfired on me
Because the randomness.
because that's right. The randomness generator, which is just 3 cards, all 3 of you were rowing in a different direction to me, and so I was just swimming upstream the whole game and didn't enjoy it at all. And like, how?
Yeah.
I don't get it. How come I'm not
And instead of
getting
impacting
anywhere?
just sort
in
of a
this?
single move that was just something at the start of the game which you had no control over.
Yeah, and that's just.
impacted
that
the
was
rest of
really
the game.
unfortunate,
But I
yeah.
mean, that's not a bad mechanic. That's just really
Exactly.
bad
You
luck.
could play
on
that
my
game
behalf,
another
that's
20
all.
times and never come
But
across that.
I think that also comes down to game design.
Yeah.
So this isn't meant to be an insult or anything, but that was the first board game designed by these two brothers. I think it's the only game they've designed. I think it's a great game, but if a setup choice, leads to that path of having an unenjoyable time, there should be a rule around that where you can't have two of the same alignment sort of thing. Yeah.
I do think with that game specifically as well, though, the idea of it is there is a bluffing mechanic to Corridors of Power. You are supposed to play cards in a way that doesn't give off what your alignment is until the moment that you want to. And it feels like that's kind of where they were going for. Now, you said this is their first game, so maybe...
I think what they were going for is that conflict of interest.
Right.
Yeah, so like you want the Greens to be supported, but you also want to fund tax evasion or something. You know what I mean? Like,
because
it's meant to be that. It's a special interest.
But you were the only one who had controlling interest in one of these things, and we were all kind of in the other one. So it just meant that we didn't want to do a...
You didn't play ball with me at all.
Yeah, because we didn't want to.
But
and you're right.
But that is luck of the draw.
It is,
I
yeah.
get it.
Yeah.
But as I'm saying, like most card draws where you start off with a deck, the randomness and chance of it is usually a leveling mechanic.
Yeah.
It wasn't in that specific deal of the cards.
Yeah, that's right.
Which was unfortunate for me.
Yeah.
That's all.
Look, I think we should just go around the table and probably give one game that we think handles luck and luck well. You have a think about it. I mean, my one is going to be Space Base, just because it basically your decisions dictate what it comes up, but you do have to know that it is very swingy. It's like, it's not for everyone. It's not fair. But when you have these fun moments like Blake going for one strategy that he was always trying to get, for me, Space Base deals in a way that if you go into it knowing that you're just playing the odds, sometimes you come out of it going, yeah, the odds just weren't in my favour today, like Katniss Everdeen, the odds weren't in my favour. but when it does come up, you're like, okay, I played it right and I got it that way. So Space Base is for me.
No, I mean, I've already mentioned it a couple of times, but for me, Longshot really nails that randomness. For me, it's just, it's pure dice rolling, but like you said, it opens up the decisions that you get to make, and any sort of, like Space, you're sort of putting the agencies on the player to put their decisions where they want, and if they're not coming up, well, sort of you put your you either hedge your bets or you go all in. Like it fits the theme of that game.
You went all in and you lost, mate. That's
exactly. You're getting out what you're putting into it.
Yeah.
If you catch my meaning there. Yeah.
I think I'll go for Architects of the West Kingdom because the game itself doesn't change at all with the randomness, but it's that initial choice you get when you get your initial hand of cards and go, okay, I'm going to build the buildings this game and go for that route, and the cards synergize differently each game, or you could just focus on the board. So I like randomness where it doesn't necessarily change the game as such, but keeps it interesting. So you can go back to it.
I'm going to go a different route and go with a game that is pure luck, but feels like agency when the luck's on, and that's The Mind.
I played that recently.
There is nothing. Yeah. It's nothing but luck. It's balls to the walls. No, come on. There's no strategy.
I'm gonna blow your mind here.
No, here we go.
I'm gonna blow your mind here. I found out because I played this with a few people in my family that are musicians, and
there is timing.
They played with a metronome in their head without me knowing. Yeah. And I'm like, how are you guys doing this?
That's what I'm saying, right? That is still pure luck. You've still got to have it timed. You still got to know each other. Yeah. But at the end of the day, it's just luck. Like, we're all feeling it.
But I'll tell you
37,
when you nail
36, I had 37, what the hell?
I've only done it 3 players, we've beaten level 12. I've only done it once with 3 people, and you just feel like you're on the same wavelength. It is insane.
3 people is different.
It is different.
We usually play in family gatherings and there's 12 people.
No.
If you can get one round out with 12 people, you're doing well.
I reckon we could do it. If we put our brains together, I reckon we could do it.
The Mind is our gateway game for next week.
All right. We'll do it on a live stream. We'll play 10 hours. We'll
get
it one time. Did it do it? The camera died.
We'll keep playing until we beat it.
That's it.
Or the end of the podcast. We'll never see each other again, gentlemen. This has been a horrible experience.
There's always that one person who, after a 30, pulls out the 50.
What? What are you doing? You jumped a whole decade of numbers.
I do have to say.
No, I think we'll wrap it up there, guys. Thank you very much for joining me. The absolutely fantastic Ralph, once again.
Ooh, hello, everyone.
How random.
The wonderful Matt over here.
You alright there? Hey!
I'm choking on my own rage here.
And whoever this guy is, I'm not sure who he is. I forget.
Anthony.
What's his name?
His name is Anthony.
Anthony, that's it.
Anthony, yeah.
His name is Florence Lawrence.
I'm going to go eat some cereal.
I don't know who you are, but get out of your house.
Oh, thank you guys. All right, make sure you go check out our website, boardgamegateway.com. All the links there. Go see. That's all I'm saying tonight. We've been going for long enough. All right, bye.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye.
My day-to-day experience, I do something cool, I roll a 1, and I just get fucked.
My magic bazooka or magic missiles. That was my magic one. Like 4 campaigns I carried these magic missiles around, and we were literally on a rope bridge between 2 towers, and I'm just like, this is the saving grace of the entire party. And I rolled a natural 1 and blew our entire party to smithereens.
I did want to talk a little bit.
I think that's a failure on the part of those. Like, if you magic missiles shouldn't have a natural one. If they're bazookas, you should just point and just go, cook.